Isaiah, Isaiah knew something about feet. He had experience with it. When the great, terrible king of Assyria, a man by the name of Sargon, his ancient civilization of Assyria, attacked and captured a town along the Mediterranean coast named Ashdod, the Lord had a message for all the people who were left there. And so this is what the Lord commanded Isaiah to do in Isaiah chapter 20. Isaiah, the Lord says, take off the rough cloth off your body, and take your sandals off your feet. And then there's a narrative that goes on after that says, Isaiah obeyed, and then he walked around naked and barefoot for 3 years to make sure the people understood God's message. Now, if you're thinking that that's a great way to reinforce the message, I think people knew the naked preacher. So when I tell you that I'm about to take a homiletical risk to help you catch a new vision for missions at First Baptist Church, I want you to know that I'm following the lead of one of the best preachers in the Bible. And that, yes, I'm only going to remove my shoes. So, you know, maybe you're like me. We've got a little love-hate relationship with our feet. Our feet carry us everywhere we go, right? I mean, they carry our burdens. They take us where we're going to go. They bear the scars and the bruises and the stumped toes of our lives. I mean, I've gotten these great new Florida shoes, and what have they done for me? They've given me blisters on my feet. I mean, feet. How often do you think about feet? I mean, I've gone to and had feet washing services with people who won't take off their shoes. And I understand, because their feet, they're embarrassed. Feet are gnarly and scarred, and they're smelly. They've carried so much of our lives around them. Our feet they carry the burden of all that we do. And then here's Isaiah saying that our feet are beautiful. I mean, the Bible celebrates these gnarly, worn-out appendages on our body. What does Jesus do when he's at one of the most holy moments of his life, when he is instigating the Lord's Supper, and the night before he's crucified? What does he do? He has his disciples sit down, and Jesus takes off their dusty sandals, and Jesus picks up their feet, and he washes them. And then he tells them this crazy thing that if I, your master, have done this for you, how much more should I ask this of you? Feet. And then here's the prophet Isaiah, a few chapters and many years later, celebrating feet as well. In Isaiah 52, verse 7, how beautiful on the mountain are the feet of those, the messenger, who announces peace, who brings good news, who announces salvation, and who says to Zion, your God reigns. Feet can be celebrated. Feet used in the name of Jesus and in his kingdom work give purpose and meaning and, yes, even beauty to our feet. Now, we have a hard time seeing the beauty of our feet. Partly, I think, is because we fail to remember where our feet are. Where our feet reside influences often what we think about them. Now, when Isaiah is preaching the sermon in Isaiah 52, the people of Israel reside in Babylon. That's not their hometown. They're in exile, away from their hometown. I was trying to think of a way of trying to help us understand that here in Gator Nation. It's kind of like those of you in Gator Nation all of a sudden having to live in Tallahassee or Baton Rouge. You're used for your feet to be in the swamp, and instead they're on this enemy soil, and you're kind of like, feet, why have you brought me to this place? That's kind of how the Israelites felt. How dare we be away from the holy space of Jerusalem? We can't have beautiful feet when we're in Babylon. And yet Isaiah sees God's purpose and God's meaning, and yes, God's beauty in their feet, no matter where they are. Now, you know the story of the Jewish exile, probably, but I want to kind of go over it with us a little bit this morning to help us to understand what Isaiah was trying to say about these bare feet. About 400 years after King David. Remember King David, David with the Goliath, and who he does this great thing. He takes all these 12 tribes of Israel and he brings them all together as one, and he makes this incredible nation. They expand the kingdom's borders, and everyone looks back at King David. About 400 years later, all of that is gone. There's been civil war, and there have been terrible kings, and ultimately, the leaders of what now is Jerusalem, in a region called Judea, have made the largest civilization at the time angry. A place called Babylon. Babylon is ruled by a king called Nebuchadnezzar, and Nebuchadnezzar is tired of these Israelites and their fickle ways, and he is going to show them and teach them a lesson. So the king brings the might of the Babylonian army, the biggest army of the time, and he brings it down to this vulnerable nation. Babylonian armies destroy city after city throughout the hill country of Jerusalem and throughout the hill country of Judea. And then they march methodically to the capital city of Jerusalem. Now Jerusalem still today is on these mountains. It was a high fortress. It was difficult to destroy. People had tried this for centuries, and they hadn't been able to accomplish it. But guess what Nebuchadnezzar does? He lays siege, and ultimately they destroy the city of Jerusalem. Those soldiers who are angry at being away from their families and in this foreign country spill over the walls, and they begin to destroy everything in sight. They burn the houses and the businesses. And then, methodically, stone by stone, they take that temple that Solomon had built and they overturn that as well. And when everything is done, and the soldiers' anger is complete, all of Israel lies in ruins, burning, smoldering, blackened. And for the final humiliation of that nation, Nebuchadnezzar takes all of the leaders, the king and the business leaders and the political leaders and the artisans and the merchants and anyone who would have any ability to rebuild the city, and he puts them in chains and he marches them out of their homeland, out of the place that's sacred, and around to what's now Babylon, which is now Iraq. And there they live in ghettos. An exiled people away from their homeland. Destroyed not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. And so when the prophet Isaiah comes here in chapter 52, and he speaks to these exiles, their feet are not in the sacred homeland. Their feet are in Babylon, in exile, and nothing there seems sacred or beautiful anymore. They're aliens in a foreign country. And yet the prophet preaches something is about to take place. Something's different. He proclaims to the people living in the ghettos in verse 1 and 2, he says this, "Awake, awake! Put on your strength, O Zion! Put on your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city! For the uncircumcised and the unclean shall enter you no more. Shake yourself from the dust, O captive of Jerusalem! Loose the bonds of your necks, O captive daughter Zion!" You can hear the language of captivity falling away as Isaiah preaches. God is doing something new, and he wants the attention of these exiles. Rise up, he says. Rise up. Engage your imaginations. Remember your life unchained on Mount Zion in the great city of Jerusalem. Isaiah's words stir the hearts of those exiles. And the word Zion brings it all together, combining so many different images of their understanding to help them see what God's about to do. Well, let's look for a second at this Mount Zion idea. Mount Zion, first of all, was a geographical location, a literal mountain. When David overcomes Jerusalem and makes it into an Israelite city, it sits on top of Mount Zion. But by the time that the first century arrives, the new Christians actually take what was considered Mount Zion and they move it to another mountain on the southwestern part of ancient Jerusalem. And it's actually on that mountain that people still go today to visit a house that they say could have been the house of the upper room where Jesus celebrated the Lord's Supper and washed his disciples' feet. But in the imagination of the exile, Zion was more than just a location. It was more than just an elevation of a certain mountain. For the Israelites, Zion came to have much more significance. In some places of Scripture, Zion represents the actual holy city, Jerusalem. Put on your strength, O Zion. Put on your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For others, Zion stands not for a mountain or for a city, but for the people of Israel themselves. Loose the bonds around your necks, O captive daughter, Zion. Isaiah preaches. Zion's a mountain, a city of people, but there's even more. Zion's also used in the Old Testament to describe the place of Yahweh's throne, his seat. With this use, Zion becomes the temple, the dwelling place of God, where perfection and beauty are woven into its very nature. So you get this idea that these exiles are invited to raise their gaze beyond the ghettos of their existence, to see a mountain, a city, a people, a temple, where something miraculous is about to break forth. In verses 7 through 12, there's a powerful description that helps the people begin to see what God's about to do. And it was familiar for those in the ancient world, was a little bit not familiar for us today. In the ancient world, most battles were not conducted in the actual city themselves. But the military would go out to some battlefield in order to engage whatever nation or people group they were going against that day. So the king would probably be in the city around the walls, and the battle was somewhere else. And when the battle was over, the general who had conducted the battle would take a messenger, and he would send the messenger all the way back to the city. Now, in those days, when they didn't have Twitter or cell phones, they didn't even have fax machines or a telegraph. The only way the messenger could get from the battlefield to the city was to run. And to run he would. And as he would run past each city, the messenger would announce what had happened at the battlefield. And here in chapter 52, we have this vision of this messenger running as hard as he can up the sides of the mountain of Zion, up the sides of the city of Jerusalem. And as he goes far along the way, you can hear him shouting to the watch guards on the walls, "Your God reigns! Your God reigns." The battle has been won. And your God reigns. And you have this image of all the watchmen along the walls singing out with joy, "Your God reigns! Your God reigns!" So finally, all who are in the city hear the incredible good news. Peace has arrived. And for those Israelites in exile, when they hear these words, "Your God reigns," they hear the good news that Jerusalem will be restored. God is returning to Zion. Hope has arrived. Can you imagine, put yourself in those shoes of those exiles in Babylon, of what the hope that would bring into your life with that image of the messenger bringing you the good news that your God reigns. You know, in Babylon, these exiles, every year, they would have to come out and support the national religion, which was that of Babylon. And in Babylon, they had a god named Marduk. And Marduk, every year for the new year, he would have a march through the city, and they would announce the ascension of Marduk to the throne of God. And year after year, the priests and devotees would march through the city streets, announcing to all who were hearing, Marduk has become king. Marduk is enthroned. And now here are these Israelites in exile. And they hear the words of Isaiah. Your God reigns. Not Marduk, not Baal from the Canaanites, not any of these other gods, but your God reigns. How beautiful on the feet. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of the messenger who announces peace, who brings good news, who announces salvation, who says to Zion, your God reigns. Wow. Yes, the last time you saw Zion, it was in ruins, smoldering and simmering in piles of rubbish. And yet out of the ruins, let us break forth into song because our God reigns. The Lord has comforted His people. The Lord has redeemed Jerusalem. And there is hope for us all. Now do you see why the messenger had such beautiful feet? He brought news that changed their lives, that changed the world, that gave them hope in a desperate situation. That's why I'm preaching barefoot today. I want us to see how beautiful our feet are on the sandy soil of Florida. That God is about to do something among us and in us and through us. And we've got good news to share to our community. I mean, how often do we aware that the world around us feels like the ruins of Jerusalem sometimes? Where individuals and families are blackened by the fires of addiction and arrogance and self-centeredness and pain. I mean, the people that we pass in Target or Publix, or maybe even here in the gathering area of our church, are modern day exiles. People that we sit beside in our offices or in our shops. Children that we teach in Vacation Bible School or at school. So many people, like the ancient city of Jerusalem, have hidden lives that contain these smoldering piles of chaos and rubbish, and they see no hope in this world. I mean, life is messy and complicated, not just for us, but for all of those around us. Like the exiles in Babylon, there are so many of our friends and neighbors, they have nowhere else to turn. The shallow faith of their childhoods has been shredded by the siege of events beyond their control. Is it no wonder that so many family and friends that we know have left their faith altogether? They see no hope in any of this. And they've missed the hope created by a Savior who loves them. The good news of Jesus speaks life and hope and joy to all lives, no matter where we are, no matter where we've been hurt, especially to those who see no hope. These modern-day exiles need someone like you with beautiful feet to proclaim God's good news to them. They need a messenger to announce joy and peace with boldness, to say, your God reigns all over the chaos and the messiness that life brings. They need someone to say that Jesus is calling you home. Come home to Zion. Come home to the dwelling place of the Lord. Come home to the Creator who knows you, who breathed life into you, and who now wants to give you salvation and purpose again. Our world needs your beautiful feet proclaiming God's good news. It's no accident that God has placed First Baptist Church on this corner. This is our corner. Today, as you contemplate your own beautiful feet, I want you to use your own imagination, the same way that Isaiah used the imagination for those in exile. Imagine that Jesus controls your feet. Now imagine where Jesus might be sending your feet. Who in your world needs to hear the good news of hope? Who in your world needs to know that someone loves them in spite of the messiness and chaos of their lives? Who in your world needs to know that there is a God who reigns even over them? It is into this chaos and messiness that God is calling us to use our beautiful feet. God is sending us into the messiness of Gainesville, these beautiful feet of First Baptist Church, to proclaim His good news. This summer, have you realized it, that we have a whole summer filled of beautiful feet opportunities. These are places for you to invest your feet in the lives of people whose lives are hurt. This week we're going to the food bank. One week we're going to host Family Promise here in our church. Another week we're going to go and cook a meal for the children and families at Ronald McDonald House. And you are invited to use your beautiful feet to serve our community in the name of Jesus. You see, Jesus does care about our feet. He cares where they are. And He cares where He's sending them. Remember those disciples that Jesus washed their feet there in the upper room on the Mount of Zion? The men were not just called Jesus' disciples. They were also called apostles. Apostles, the Greek word for that, literally means those sent out ones. Those who were sent out into the world. Apostle, Jesus washes the feet of these apostles, and then He sends them out into the world with the good news. And you know what those beautiful feet did? They changed the world. They spread out all over the known Roman world, and they preached that good news, and the world has been changed forever. First Baptist Church, you have beautiful feet. Our feet reside now on this corner of Northwest 39th Avenue and Highway 241. And from this corner to the world, our Creator God is sending us with the seeds of God's good news.